Hey there, welcome back to another podcast episode. It's been a long time since we've done one. Well, it's been a while since we've done one based on like uh, like this long form. The last one I believe we did was the Jurassic Park Island, which is an Islands of Adventure, of course. If you know, you know. Um, Today I'm going to be talking about. I know we did the whole voting system and we didn't really get anywhere this time. Usually the voting is pretty unanimous and people vote immediately and we get a lot of results, but this time we it's just a tie. Unfortunately, Superhero Island wasn't picked, but you know what, I feel like talking about it today just because, and I love the area. It's probably my favorite area at Universal, and I say that for every area, but this one's special. It's really just a massive like love letter to Marvel in the 90s and the 2000s. And basically, there's a whole deal that's with Disney and Universal. I definitely think Universal is a much better park. Like overall, it's a much bigger, not bigger, but it's a much more thrill based park. It has a lot more older film references and just more going on, I feel like. That being said, I have never been to Disney World, so I can't really speak on that. I'm a big Disney fan, by the way, but I feel like Universal is just a better experience. I have been to Disneyland, so I'm not a complete noob, okay? I've been to Disneyland. Anyway, this episode, probably all the episodes are probably not going to be um like I'm not going to show my face, mainly because I just want to talk just as a podcast. And I misplaced my map, so I can't show you that. So that's fun, right? It's fun when that happens. I do have a couple universal maps. They're somewhere, I don't know. Uh, but regardless, this is probably the biggest area in the park. It's just a well, I don't know. I feel like it's the biggest just because it's massive. Anyway, so quick recap: Universal Studios. I believe they have three parks. One, maybe four actually. So there's Universal Japan. I believe there's a Beijing park. There's obviously Hollywood and Orlando. I think that's four. So I think Universal has four parks. They could be five. I think there's four. But yeah, there's. I haven't been to the Japanese parks, sadly. But anyway, so Hollywood was the first park that I went to, and it's smaller. Um, or at least it was when we went. This was back in 2012. Great park. It's the original. It's awesome. The studio tour is by far the coolest thing to do there. And essentially, you go on a bus and you go through different. You could basically go on a tour of the back lot, which it has all of these different like movies like Psycho, Jaws, Fast and the Furious was there. It might still be there, and a few other ones. And it's really cool. I think even Earthquake, I don't know, one of those is there. Regardless, it's a great time. Since then, I've since been to the Orlando park, which is a lot bigger because it has the Islands of Adventure. This will come back around, trust me. Islands of Adventure is essentially one of the two parks you can go to. So Universal is its own park, but it has the Islands of Adventure, which is built into the park. So you can either choose to go to Studios, which is pretty much the main like park, and then you can go to the Islands of Adventure, which is the much bigger area. It has a lot of different themes such as Popeye. You got like obviously the Marvel stuff we'll get to, and um the Wizarding World. There's a lot of stuff. Jurassic Park, obviously, which we talked about the last episode. And I'm trying to describe this as best I can. um, so essentially, you can go to the Universal Gate, and by then, when you're in the park, you'll go to this place called the Port of Entry, which is this. It's kind of like a generic town. There's not really a theme. I guess there's a theme. The theme is like worlds, like the world. So like it's an adventure town. So you go through that, and you obviously go past the front gate and stuff. And there's like a fork in the road. So you can either go to Universal on the right or you can go to Islands of Adventure on the left. And if you go to the islands, which I think is a little bit better of an area, you can then either go to the Seuss Landing, which is the Dr. Seuss area, which that area is probably the lamest like part of the park. It's fine, but it's mostly for kids. It's not a bad area. It's just outdated. Probably the most outdated part of the park is the whole Dr. Seuss area. Again, it's not bad. It's just compared with everything else, it's a little lame. But you have that area. Or you can go to the left where Marvel Superhero Island is. This is what we're going to talk about today. There's a lot with this. It's a gigantic comic book land, and there's a story based on this, which I didn't know when I went. Now I know. I keep up with the park a lot, and essentially, Universal was its own park, right? Just had the own. It was just long ago. It just had its own park. That was it. But apparently, a meteor came from the sky, smashed down on the ground, and a bunch of superheroes jumped out of it. And like all these islands started spreading and like merging into one another, and it became this whole big production thing, land. And from that, the Marvel superheroes like came to life and they started populating the area. And essentially, that's the story of Marvel Superhero Island. Is this big, massive world that's just come to life in the park, and so it's your job to defend this area and to look out for villains. And it's just a really cool, like, creative way to put it into the park. And it's kind of a time capsule, because this area was built in the late 90s, so around 97, 98, and it opened in 99. So it was representing the comics in that era, so basically the 90s, which is a great era of comics. And that's what it looks like. It's not the MCU because Disney owns that. That's Marvel Studios, which is the movie verse, whereas this is the comic verse. So basically, Universal has free reign to just do whatever they want with Marvel in this park, as long as it's not part of the movies. So you've got the Fantastic Four, which is obviously amazing because that's Marvel's first superhero family ever. And so that's great. And then you got the X-Men, of course, which we're slowly getting more of in the movies. And we've got Spider-Man, of course, Captain America, Wolverine. Deadpool was supposed to be part of this. That was kind of a weird little thing that didn't happen. Deadpool apparently was supposed to be part of one of the rides, and it never happened. And funny enough, Deadpool and Wolverine are now at Disney parks, which is really, that's really surprising and also kind of awesome to have that. And I've seen the shows online. It's very cool to have them. But yeah, you've got basically all these different characters, and aside from the Guardians and Black Panther and Captain Marvel, they're not allowed at Universal because they're part of the films, which is a little bit lame. But you have to understand this deal was made in like the 90s, so essentially Disney parks cannot use the Marvel they can't use the Marvel branding, which is, I mean, that makes sense. It's kind of hilarious because I feel like the Disney Parks version of Marvel is kind of trash. Like if you look at it, it's really lame. A lot of the rides are not that good, and I don't know, they're getting better at it. Whereas I prefer this Universal side. It's just a lot more true to the Marvel like brand. It feels much more um fun, and it's not as corporate, I guess. As better, I don't know. That's just how I feel. But this island is humongous, just a massive city block full of comic book stores, popcorn stands, restaurants, bathrooms, obviously. And there's this cool stunt show that happened. Sadly, when we were there, the stunt show wasn't like, I don't think they did one that day. Um, but yeah, they do a cool stunt show, and it's just, it's so alive. It just feels so magical. And there's a really cool spot where there's this like metal circle on the ground, and it says Marvel Superhero Island, and it has these banners around it, and it's like artwork of all these Marvel characters, and it's so cool to stand in. you have to take my word for it because I can't show you because I'll get copyrighted. But it's just so epic, this whole area, and the music for this area is probably the best in the park. It's just like this epic rock, electronic, epic jamming soundtrack, and it's so cool. And it's kind of weird. You wouldn't think with Marvel there would be rock music, but somehow it works, and it's really cool. It fits the vibe for sure. So essentially, you have all of these buildings, right? And there's various references to Ghost Rider and Daredevil and Punisher and Blade and all these different characters. It's really epic. The amount of like Easter eggs is ridiculous. Just it will take you days to look at all this stuff. Unfortunately, I wanted to stay in the superhero island for a long time, but we had to keep moving, keep going on rides, which is great because this area has 4 rides. It doesn't sound like a lot, but for each area, they pretty much have like 2 or 3 rides, which is really good. That's kind of what you want to see. And 2 of these rides I have not been on, 2 of them I have. Um, and we'll get to the rides in a little bit. But I really want to mention something really cool because all around the buildings, there will be a Marvel character, not a physical character. What I mean is there will be a massive cutout of a character, be it Iceman or Doctor Doom, and they'll be on like a building or something. And they're just phenomenal artwork. Like in you have to see it to believe it's so cool because this is the artwork of characters from the 90s, which if you don't know, the 90s had probably some of the coolest character designs ever for Marvel, in my opinion. And it's just the artwork is gorgeous. Like these cutouts are amazing. I think there's about maybe 15. I don't know. I couldn't count off the top of my head. There's some in the Captain America diner as well. So there's some that you won't see if you are just outside, if you don't go inside. But there's characters like Iceman again. There's Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Spider-Man, of course, Captain America, Namor, and Silver Surfer is awesome as one of them. There's Human Torch. There's a ton of characters, and what you may not know is the artist Adam Kubert actually was forbidden to sign his name on the artwork that he did for some weird reason. I don't know. There was some weird like contract reason or whatever. So he couldn't have his name on the artwork. However, he actually hid his signature in the art itself. So on Wolverine, I think it might be on his leg where his signature is, and it's just so cool. He hid his name. So one thing you could do if you're in Superhero Island is if you go up to the cutouts and try to see if you can find the artist's name hidden in the art. I just think that would be really kind of a fun challenge. But that's just one little Easter egg thing. There are a couple restaurants. There is the Captain America Diner. Sadly, we didn't go in there. We ended up eating at the Three Broomsticks, which is in the Wizarding World. But I wish I went in the Cap Diner because I don't know, I didn't go in there for some reason. But if I ever go back, I'll probably go again. But or go in there. But it's essentially a whole diner, and it's like this 50s vibe, and it's got Captain America on it, and he's throwing his shield. It's so epic. And from what I've seen now, it's really cool inside because there's tons of artwork everywhere, and it's just a loving tribute to Cap himself and obviously the Avengers. And it's just the amount of detail they put into this stuff is just remarkable. So that's one restaurant, and that's like more Americanized food. Um, and then you've got another restaurant, which I think is a little bit better. It's the Fantastic Cafe, and obviously this is Fantastic Four themed, which is amazing. And it's really cool. It's a little bit different type of food. I guess it's the same, as I contradict myself. Um, because I think I've been in this one, and it's really really cool. The vibe, it's very cool, and it's actually kind of connected to the Kingpin's arcade, which is actually where you get out of the Doctor Doom Fearfall Tower, which I'll get to later. and there's actually a hole in the wall from where a battle happened, and you can see through to the arcade, and it's just this stuff. It's just so awesome that they came up with all this, and it's very colorful, tons of vibrant costumes, and it's super cheesy, but that's the point. It's supposed to be, right? This is the '90s, and it's really awesome that they haven't changed it, and I love it. So that's the Fantastic Four Cafe, and it's got that awesome Four logo. And right near the cafe, there's a physical prop, and it's the Fantastic Car, which is the Fantastic Four's obviously transport ship. And you can actually go in there and press buttons, and it's just fantastic, pun intended. So yeah, it's just really awesome. I never get tired of walking in there, and I went in that area probably like 5 or 6 times. It's just the perfect area for me. I love it. I'm definitely my favorite part of the Universal. Although my favorite queue is the Men in Black headquarters, because I love the films. I love the comics. I read the comics recently. Those are dark, like very dark compared to the films. And I also love the animated series, which is also pretty dark. Um, but yeah, I love Men in Black, and that whole area to be in the headquarters was just so cool. Unfortunately, they didn't have any of the MIB shades, which I was really disappointed about. But regardless, we'll talk about that when we get that'll get its own video because I love that area so much. But yeah, that's probably my favorite queue is the Men in Black. But my favorite area is the superhero island. It's just so catered to me. I don't know. I love it. But yeah, the rides, there are four rides. Now, the biggest ride is the Incredible Hulk coaster, and such a wimp, so I didn't go on that. I'm gonna be honest, because I'm not a roller coaster person. Um, I guess I get so scared, and I don't know. The ride itself looks amazing, but it's just so massive, and it does all these twirly things and goes upside down. That stuff for me is kind of like too much. However, the theming is fantastic. You've got this giant Hulk statue holding up the ride itself, and it's like the track from the original ride. And it just, from what I've seen, the queue is amazing. So you go into this lab, and Dr. Banner's there, and he's trying to cure himself, and he needs your help. And so he launches us into a coaster, and it's supposed to be like you're on the like you're a Hulk, right? And the music is amazing, of course. And I can't tell you my experience with the queue because I haven't been in there, but from what I can tell, people love it and it's really awesome. So that's the first big ride. That's the I guess it's the only coaster. Yeah, it's the only coaster in the superhero island. But then you also have a ride that I also haven't been on, not because I didn't want to, because I didn't know where it was. It's the X-Men, well, it's Storm Force Accelatron, and it's really just Storm's ride. It's themed around the X-Men, and it's got this cool like little story where it's these panels while you're waiting in the queue, and apparently Magneto is taking control of these teacups, and he's trying to raise them from the ground and destroy the X-Men, and you're supposed to stop him with your powers, and it's like this teacup thing. It's like a ripoff of the Disney Parks one, but I think it's a lot cooler. And it's just like this little teacup ride you go around. It's really cool. It's got like these X-Men logos. It's super cool. Unfortunately, I think it might have been either closed or we didn't go on it. I don't even know where it was. I think it was like maybe like in the Doctor Doom area. I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. See, this would probably be a good point for the map to be here, but of course, I misplaced that. So you're not going to learn that today, and neither will I. But anyway, the X-Men thing is awesome. Um, from what I've heard, it's just really cool. So that's the second ride that I haven't been on. The best ride, probably like top three Universal rides, is the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man. That thing is amazing, pun intended. It's just it's hard to explain. So it's a dark ride, but it has a lot of effects. It's got fire, it's got water, it's got elevator, it's got a drop. Um, it's got a ton of stuff. It's very similar to the Transformers ride, although they're somewhat different. I think the Transformers ride I like a tiny bit more because I don't know, it's Transformers and I'm a big fan of that. But they're pretty similar rides, like setup wise. And you essentially go into the Daily Bugle offices, and there's this giant spider at the front of the ride. There's this gigantic comic book Spider-Man statue, or no, I'm sorry, it's a cutout of Spider-Man in the 90s, and it's him leaping forward, and it's got the awesome yellow and black logo for the title, and it's so cool. This one is probably the longest wait time. You'll probably wait around 30 to an hour for this. Well, it depends on the day, I guess, but it's a very popular ride for good reason. It's amazing. And you go into this darkened Daily Bugle office, and J. Jonah Jameson's there, and he's trying to get pictures of Spider-Man, and Peter's there guiding you through it, and trouble starts brewing because Doc Ock and the rest of the villains, the Sinister Syndicate, they start to show up and start to attack the guests, and Spider-Man kind of saves the day. It's like a really cool story where Doc Ock is trying to get this fusion device to work, and he needs all these different villains' help. And the villains, I'm trying to remember the villains. So there's Scream, which is not to be confused with the Scream movies, which are great. And there's Doc Ock, obviously. There's no Venom in this ride. Um, there's also is Mysterio in this? I'm trying to remember if Mysterio's in this ride. Um, I we'll get back to him. I don't think he's in this ride. I could be wrong. Hydro Man uh is in here. The Green Goblin. I'm sorry, Green Goblin. And then I'm trying to think of the last villain. Sandman. Regardless, there are so many Spider-Man villains. It's really a cavalcade of characters, to be honest. They're regardless, the Sinister Syndicate are attacking us, and Spider-Man is going to help us try to defeat him. And you go through the Daily Bugle offices. J. Jonah Jameson gives us a special ride vehicle. I forgot what it was called. It's like a news vehicle, and you go into this darkened area, and it's like based like an alleyway. I'm not going to go through the whole ride, but essentially you're jumping around with Spider-Man, and it's just so cool. As a kid, I always wanted to go on this ride because I saw a lot of ads in the comics for it, and to finally like to have a chance to go on it was so cool, and it was just so epic. um and you're jumping around, the vehicles turning and spinning and jumping, and it's just so crazy, and it's really well done. You got like parts where Electro is the last villain I forgot to mention. So Electro electrocutes us, and it's really awesome. You get these 3D glasses, and you go around. It's almost like a movie, but you're going in a ride. Like it's a movie ride. You're getting jolted and jerked around and like thrown off buildings. You're in a comic book, and it's amazing. And the experience was so good that me and my sister just went on it like at least 5 or 6 times, because it's just mind blowing what they're able to do, and it's not dated. Like Spider-Man himself looks like he did in the 90s, but it's generic enough to where it doesn't look terrible. It doesn't look like awful. So I think they refurbished it a couple years ago. But yeah, like it's just such an amazing ride. And Stan Lee cameos throughout. I think he has like 5 cameos. I think I got like 2 of the cameos. Some of them are hard to find because you're all over the place. One part I think would be a good update is if they added Venom instead of Scream. Scream is this like weird lady. She's like a symbiote alien girl, and she like screams at us in our face. And she has like this red and yellow suit. It definitely probably is the most dated looking costume, or just the most dated looking like character of that ride. It's like she's fine. It would have been cooler if it was Venom, obviously, because Venom is a lot better of a character than Scream. But yeah, you get attacked by Hydro Man with real water. You get attacked by fire with the Green Goblin's bombs. I mean, it is just one of the coolest things that I've done at a theme park, and it just blows anything away that Disney does, and it's really sad that they haven't updated anything except for the Tron coaster, which that's probably the one thing that would probably get me to go is the Tron Legacy roller coaster, which I need to ride that because I'm a huge Tron fan. But anyway, regardless, we're not talking about Disney. Get that out of here. Um, the ride, the Spider-Man ride, is incredible. Like, and you keep riding it, and you're just like seeing new stuff, and it for real, one of the best rides I've been on. So that's like the most popular ride, and it's the best ride, and it's the most iconic, probably of the Universal parks. And yeah, it's just a really awesome experience. Unfortunately, we didn't get to really meet Spider-Man because you had to pay. I think it was like $50 or $100 to meet him, which is kind of lame. The costume definitely looks a little bit outdated, but it would have been cool to meet him. I just don't think it would have been worth $100, but it's up to you. And also, I think Captain America also you have to pay for, which is a good segue because there are a lot of meet and greets character. Well, not a lot. There's like several. So I got pictures with Storm, Rogue, Wolverine, and Cyclops, the X-Men, most of the X-Men at least. And that was really cool to get pictures of them. Their costumes are so nice. Um, and I think those are the only ones. No, Spider-Man and Captain America are separate. So those are the only 6 walk around characters. That's a lot for a theme park area. And when you're in Marvel Superhero Island, it almost feels like you're in a different like park. Well, you kind of are. It's an island of adventure, so it's different. But it feels like you're in a different park, like its own park. Um, but yeah, it's really cool. The costumes are very nice, very accurate to the 90s looks, which again, I think is probably some of the coolest costumes of any Marvel era, for sure. And yeah, I just think it's great. I think it's really cool that Wolverine is at Universal and also he's at Disney, which is just so weird to say uh, because technically that shouldn't be possible. Anyway, I felt that that was worth mentioning. Yeah, the costumes are great. Just the theming around it's just very 90s in a good way. It feels like you're in a comic, like you're in a gigantic 3D comic that you can walk around. And it's just very cool. And the music again, the music is the greatest thing ever. Just the rocking soundtrack. It's so good. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of the other ride that I forgot to mention. Oh, yeah. So this ride almost killed me. Not really, but I felt like I was going to die on this ride. Um, it's the Doctor Doom's Fearfall Tower. And essentially, Oh, that's right. There's two. I'm sorry. There are 2 other walk around characters, the Green Goblin and Doctor Doom. Sadly, I only got to see him once, and it was a super long line, and I wasn't able to get a picture, so that was kind of lame. But I did see them, and they look very good, very cool, very 90s, very retro, in a good way. I'm not saying it's dated. It's way better than what Disney's doing at their park for Marvel, which is kind of embarrassing if you look into it. But yeah, Doctor Doom has this awesome armored look with the hood and the cape, and it's amazing. And then Green Goblin looks great. Um, Apparently, at the stunt show, the Green Goblin actually has a glider, which is really cool. Like a glider that he actually is on, like in the air. Like seriously, why is there so much good stuff at this area? I don't know. But yeah, so those are the other so 8 meet and greet characters, including the villains. which is really cool. I think it would have been cooler if Magneto was a walk around character. I feel like that's like a missed opportunity because Magneto is like one of the best Marvel villains. Like, why is he not a part of this park like that? I don't know. But regardless, that's a that's those are two other characters. Anyway, so going back to Doctor Doom's Fearfall. So this is kind of like in between the whole. I'm sorry, this is in between the Fantastic Cafe and the Spider-Man ride. So it's kind of in this weird dark alleyway. And one thing that I really like is there are these different phone booths around, and if you pick up the phone or press a button, there will be like certain messages, like Captain America warning you of villains in the area. And I just found that like a really awesome detail. I think there's like 3 or 4 phone like areas, and it's really cool. I think they took one of them out, but I think there's 3 of them now. But there's different phone areas you can call and see or listen to cool messages. It's very nice. And yeah, Doctor Doom is probably one of the best villains of Marvel. In fact, he might be my favorite Marvel villain. I think so. There's just so much cool factor with him, and he's one of the strongest enemies of the Marvel universe. And he's got this epic backstory where he was scarred, and he comes from Latveria, which is this bizarre, weird country in the middle of nowhere, and he rules with an iron fist, and he's got these awesome henchmen called the Doombots, and they patrol this area. And he has to wear armor now because he's scarred, and he was a former friend of Mr. Fantastic, and they had a falling out, and so he battles the Fantastic Four pretty much all the time. And yeah, he's one of Marvel's most iconic villains, and he has his own ride. It's basically a drop tower, but it's this massive giant freaking tower, actually 2 towers. And you go up to this area, and it's got Doctor Doom's, of course, artwork on it. And it's got this Fearfall logo. And you go up to it, and it's just this gigantic, towering, threatening machine looking thing. And there's 2 towers, right? Drop towers, and they're kind of next to each other. And they shoot you up. I don't remember the speed. I think it might have been like 40 or 50 miles an hour. They shoot you up to this top of this thing, and it's the scariest thing I've done at this park because I've never been on a drop tower. And well, let's just say I may not go on one ever again. It was really fun, but it was really terrifying in my experience because I'm just a baby at this stuff. But yeah, you go into this queue. Speaking of, the queue for this ride is it's probably the most unique queue because you're going in that's super dark and evil and ominous, and obviously it's Doctor Doom's Ladverian lair. And when you go right to the entrance, right into the area to go into the queue, there's this really cool shield. I forgot what it says, but it's got like Doctor Doom's oath or like his coat of arms, and it's so cool. Anyway, you go down this hallway, and there's a couple of screens on the wall. And it's like this video. It's like this animated, like 2D animated, like Disney used to do, um, where you've got this like screen where Doctor Doom is on the screen, and he's trying to take over the world again. That's kind of the obvious thing, but a scientist is working for him, and he's trying to make this machine that will. I forget what the machine is for, because I was trying to pay attention. It was a little bit hard to hear the audio, but essentially Doctor Doom is trying to kill the writer, us. He's trying to kill the guests, and he's also trying to kill any superheroes, including the Fantastic Four. And he's trying to shoot him up these towers to try to shoot him up into the sky and kill him. At least I think that's what happens. I could definitely be wrong. I probably should have looked this up before this. But anyway, he's making this tower, and he basically straps us to this tower, and it's in 4s. So we've got one set of 2 seats around a giant column, and it kind of goes like in 4. So one side. It's hard to explain. Essentially, it's a box on a tower, and with some seats. Not like that. Like I'm trying to explain it, but it's like got the blue Fantastic Four colors, and 2 people go in each pair of seats, and you go into this. It's like a drop tower, like normal thing, right? And they put you in a harness, and they don't tell you when you're gonna jump or when you're gonna go up. So Doctor Doom counts down, and it takes a while for them to shoot you up. And the freaking anticipation of this is insane because you don't know like what's gonna happen, what's the story. Well, you do know the story, but you feel like you're gonna fall out of your thing when they launch you into the sky, and it's just terrifying to me. I don't know, in a cool way. I felt like I was in a comic about to be launched in the sky and sent into oblivion because yeah, it's really terrifying in my opinion. In a cool way though. It's so cool. And I love how the seats have the four logos and the doors even have the Fantastic Four logo. And it's so epic. And it's like you're a superhero about to be, killed. And you're on this experiment and you're going up. They shoot you up. You get a brief view of the Universal or the Islands of Adventure. And it's really cool because they shoot you all the way up there and it feels really high because you are. And yeah, it's a really cool experience. I'm glad I did it. Um, Maybe I wouldn't do it again. I don't know. I'm debating on it just because of I was really asleep that day. So my dad and I went to the park at like 7:30. I think it was actually 6:30. It was 6:30 or 7:30 to go to the park to go early so we could go on rides. And I was really sleepy that day or that morning. And yeah, I woke up after that. I woke up. I was definitely awake after that ride. So epic ride, super cool. People say it's like the lamest Marvel ride at the park. I disagree. I think it's really well themed. And again, the music is super epic. It's like this dark, evil theme. And the queue, I think the coolest part of the queue is actually the Doombots that are situated around. So you have all these different Doombot robots that are like guarding different areas of the layer. And it's just so freaking awesome. It's pulled out of the comic. Like it looks super menacing. These robots have like red eyes and they're like super evil looking. And it just brings you into it so much. I think what would make it a little bit better of a queue is if Doctor Doom himself would show up and like threaten to kill us and like actually guide us through the different hallways. But dude, my anticipation for this ride, like you go through these different doors and hallways, and I was scared beyond belief. Like I have a kind of a fear of heights. So I saw the towers right from the get-go, and I had the choice whether or not to go on it or not. And I decided, you know what, might as well. I love Doctor Doom. I'm a I just yeah, it's a new experience. I wouldn't recommend it for younger kids who have a fear of heights for sure. Anyone who has a fear of heights probably should not go on this. Uh because it's very high. I think it's one of the highest rides at the park. I think, or one of the tallest rides. I think either Velocicoaster or the um, I'm trying to remember the Rip Ride Rocket. I think Rip Ride Rocket's actually the highest roller coaster, but then Velocicoaster is second, and then I think the Doctor Doom is the third tallest. So yeah, but I'm a big fan of this ride, even though it like traumatized me that day. I'm glad I went on it because it was amazing. And they only shoot you up once, but then they kind of do like little bouncy drops, which is good. It's not as scary. Anyway, that's like the last ride that they have. Well, the last ride I'm going to talk about because that's all four rides. And yeah, the rides are really awesome. I'm a big fan of all of them, even though I haven't been on two of them. I'm considering going on the Hulk. It's just the Hulk is so fast and it's so intimidating. Like you go under it and it's like dropping people like to 60 miles an hour and you're going like upside down. Regardless, it's awesome to look at. And at nighttime, Marvel Superhero Island looks beautiful. Like the lighting is so on point. It's so well done. Like, I can't say enough good things about this park, at this area. I'm sorry, this island of the park. One more thing I want to mention is the stores. The stores are pretty good. There's a comic book shop that's by the Spider-Man ride, which is really cool. I'm not like a big comics guy anymore. I buy occasional comics. Like I buy Harley Quinn comics and then some Deadpool and then Spider-Man and Deadpool. I probably should get more of those. But I'm into those series. I like to get the bundles, not the individual ones, because individual ones are like $4 or $5 a piece, and it's a little pricey. But regardless, there's a comic book shop, and it's got a lot of awesome comic books, lots of cool statues, lots of cool like action figures and plushies. There's one plushie that I kind of regret not getting, and it's the Spider Gwen one that I saw, and I debated on it for like so long. I wish I did. But if we ever go back there, I'll probably get that one. Either her or a Deadpool plushie. It's one of them. But I think they have Funko. No, I was disappointed. There was no Funko Pops, which is really lame. But they've got lots of stuff like keychains, and something that I got from one of the stores is the coin album, which Marvel Superhero Island has some of the coolest coins from the park, in my opinion. You've got the Spider-Man. I think there's like 3 different Spider-Man coins. There's Doctor Doom themed ones. There's a lot of cool superhero themed coins that you can get, and it's really epic. Yeah, that was really cool to see. And the stores, there's a couple other ones. There's one that's across the street from Spider-Man. I think it's a little bit better of a store. It's more just like general merch. Um, it's just lots of usual theme park stuff you would expect, but yeah, that's really cool. Lots of food, obviously, the popcorn stand. The reason I keep mentioning that is because it just looks so cool. It's like a drink stand and stuff like that. Um, and I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything. The stunt show again. There was no stunt show at the time. I think it was scheduled for probably a specific day, but we just didn't. We weren't in the area if the show was going on. We weren't in that part of the park. But yeah, if you exit Marvel Superhero Island, there's like 2 ways to do it. You can go right, and that's kind of where the entrance to the island is, and then you can go to the Dr. Seuss Landing, or you can go to the right and go to the Jurassic Park area. Or I'm sorry, no, it's the Toon Lagoon. So that one I might talk about last in this series, just because there's not as much to it. Like there's no ride. Well, I guess there's a couple rides, but it's not as big. But it's really nice to look at. Toon Lagoon is like this old fashioned comic area where it's got like all these old characters. I don't really know a lot of them. I know Popeye, and that's about it, because it's really from like the 40s, 50s, 60s, which isn't bad. It's just way before my time, so I don't know any of those, but it's beautiful artwork for sure. So that's one area you can go. You can choose to go there or the Seuss Landing. So yeah, it to be there was just outstanding. Like it just felt like you were in a comic, which is the best thing ever, in my opinion. Like to be I'm a huge Marvel fan, like in general. Like I love the films, of course. I love a lot of the comic characters, comic designs, a lot of the shows. But I just love Marvel in general, like just the generalness of it. And I read a lot of comics as a kid, so to see a lot of these characters is super cool. And there's tons of references, like these little um, little signs to various characters. Like, cause I forgot where it was, but there was this double reference to Ghost Rider, where it had Blaze and Ketch motorcycles, and obviously that's a reference to both Ghost Riders, or 2 of them. And imagine a Ghost Rider in the park. That would be amazing. But Yeah, that's just one of the many references. They're just scattered throughout. There's just so much stuff. And the atmosphere, I forgot to mention that. The atmosphere of this park is probably the coolest atmosphere of the whole park. In my opinion, if you're a Marvel fan at all, this is probably the best part of the park. Um, Unless you're a big MCU fan, there's not a whole lot of MCU stuff necessarily outside, but there is a lot of MCU merchandise in the stores. It's just not like outside in the queues or anything, or in the front of the rides, because they don't own the rights to the MCU that Disney does. But yeah, um, I think this land is 10 times better than the Disney parks part of it. Like it it just trumps everything. Like it's so much more true to the comics, true to Marvel itself. Like it's just a lot better of an area, in my opinion. Again, I haven't been to Disney World, so I can't tell you what that was like, but I just feel like it's a lot better value. Like there's just so much more here. Even if it is like you could say that Marvel Superhero Island is outdated. In a way, technically it is, but it's a lot more charming. It's so much more magical to me. Like it just has more life to it. I don't know. Um, I'm just a big fan of this area. I know I said in the other episode that the Jurassic Park island was my favorite. There's just so much good between these two. I think Marvel Superhero Island probably no, it is my favorite part of the park. Um, I know I said the Jurassic one was, but it, it's hard to rank these areas. Okay, they're just so mind blowingly awesome that like Universal is really for older fans. It's really for people who love movies or media. Like if you love anything at all and it's like part of a franchise, Universal probably has something to do with that. And even some of these older rides that have shut down, like Jaws the ride, sadly, or Back to the Future the ride, or Terminator 2 3D, or Twister Ride It Out. Sadly, these rides are no longer in the park, but there are loads of references as well scattered throughout. So they're not forgotten, they're just gone. Like they're physically not there. One thing that I really like is the Rock and Roller Coaster goes through a firehouse at one point. And if you know the history of the park, that was actually the Ghostbusters spooktacular show building. So that was actually part of that play, not play, it was part of that show before they took it down. So it is still Ghostbusters themed. It's just not running. So sadly, I'm a huge Ghostbuster fan. That sadly they don't do the show anymore, but it's just really cool to see that part of it still up. Um, and yeah, there's just so much like that. Like they have the DeLorean and the actual time train from the film, the Back to the Future Part 3, um, actual like props, like actual vehicles that were used in the film, which is it's so cool. To be standing next to them was amazing. I'm a big fan of Back to the Future. I'm gonna be the one of the few that says that Part 3 is the best. I don't know. I'm just a big fan of that one in particular, but all three are great. I think it would have been really cool if they put the Ecto One near the firehouse where the Rock and Roller Coaster, like the, I just think it would be really cool to put like the Ecto One there, but I don't know. Apparently, I'm trying to look into this, but apparently in the Men in Black World Expo, like near the entrance, there apparently was a Men in Black Ford. Oh, I forgot the name of the Ford. I know it. I know the Ford, but the specific car that they use in the films was in like it was near the entrance, and I would have loved to see that. Apparently, the opening for Men in Black was amazing. Like there was explosions and like aliens everywhere. From what I know, that's what happened. I wish I could have been there. But yeah, that would have been sick. Asians everywhere. Oh, that would have been so cool. Anyway, we're not talking about Men in Black. We'll get to that in its own video. But yeah, like I think that's pretty much all I have to say about Superhero Island. I covered a lot. Sorry if it was a little bit like all over the place. Just I'm such a huge fan of this part of the park that I had to, talk about it for a good chunk of time. Trying to think of anything I forgot. No, nothing. I don't think I did. Um, yeah. Oh, we did eat at the Fantastic Four Cafe. Oh, I didn't eat, but my mom did, and they liked the food. The food's pretty good there. I think the best restaurant I've heard is the um, what is it called? It's the one in um the Olympus. Oh, it's the Olympus restaurant. Um, that one I heard is the best one. We didn't go. We didn't eat there sadly, but if we go again, I'll probably see if we can go there because that looks really cool. But yeah, that's Superhero Island. Incredible experience, like for real. It, it's got stuff for comic fans. It's got stuff for pretty much movie fans. I mean, there's movie merch in the store, so it's not gone. And obviously, the rides are amazing. Well, two of the four. Um, yeah, if I go on the Hulk, I'll let you know. I'm thinking about it. Okay, it's not out of the question, but yeah, Velocicoaster I'm actually more scared about. I didn't go on that because I was scared again because there's a giant drop and it goes upside down. Whatever. Um, yeah, if I go on that, I'll probably let you know as well. That's really all I have to say. I mean, if you want more information on the actual shows, there are better YouTubers. There are way better people that can inform you on that. And I've actually seen quite a bit of videos, and the shows were incredible from what I've seen. Um, and yeah, everything is amazing with this area. I have nothing bad to say. Again, probably my only complaint is that Scream character is, I don't know, it's like a Venom knockoff. Like they should have just not done her. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about the Marvel Superhero Island. I just think it's an awesome area. If you're any kind of Marvel fan, you need to go to this place sooner than later. And don't spend your money at Disney. You're going to waste your money. Don't go to the Avengers campus. It's really bad from what I've seen. And I've seen a lot of it, and it's not good. So don't go there. Go to Superhero Island. It's way better, it's cheaper, and it's cooler. So, yeah. Um, that's about it. Let me know what you think of Marvel's Superhero Island. And what is your favorite island of adventure? Let me know down below. Thank you for listening if you did, and comment below what you think of this area. Do you think it's one of the stronger like parts of the park, or do you think it's kind of lame? Do you think they could, update it a little bit? And what are your thoughts on Marvel in general? Do you think it's good, or are you not a fan? Let me know. Thank you for listening, not watching, because there's nothing to watch, but thank you for listening. I appreciate it. The next episode in this series, it might be the Men in Black area, or it might be the maybe the Hollywood, or I'm sorry, the New York area of the park. I don't know. I'm gonna try to like space out these areas and see if I can talk about different ones. But I'll probably do Seuss Landing near the end. Same with Toon Lagoon, just because they're not as big of areas. Like they're not as flashy. But yeah, that's about it for this one. Thank you once again. Thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your day. And I will see you for the next episode. Take care. Have a great one.